Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen. Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Inshallah, today we will look at the etiquettes of sleeping. And inshallah, this will be the last of the series from the etiquettes of character. And inshallah, from next week or the week after, we will begin the section on series, the essential series regarding the seerah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, Shaykh Abdul Fattah Bughaddar rahmatullahi alayhi does not mention the etiquettes of sleeping in his book, Islamic Manners, that we have been covering. So what I will do is I will cover this section from Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi's book titled The Beginning of Guidance. The Beginning of Guidance, Bidayatul Hidayah. And there's a very good English translation that is done by White Thread Press. This is the book right here. For anyone that is interested in getting a copy of it, they can do so online. And it is very beneficial. He does something very similar to Shaykh Abdul Fattah Bughaddar in mentioning the etiquettes of different things that we do throughout the day, as well as many other pertinent topics and important discussions. So we'll be covering this section, the etiquette of sleep, from this book. This will not be a very long session today. Inshallah, we will just read through these and ponder over some of these things and try to bring them into our lives. The first thing that Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi mentions is, when you wish to sleep, spread out your mattress facing the Qibla and lie on your right side as one dead lies in his grave. So when we go to sleep, we should spread out the mattress in a way that we are facing the Qibla. Okay, so when we're lying down on our right side, we should be trying to face the Qibla. Okay, and it's a sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to lie down on the right side. Now that is at the beginning of sleep. Whatever happens during the sleep, a person is not responsible for that. You know, if a person started off sleeping on the right side and then when they woke up, they're on their left side, or they're on their back, or they're on their stomach, that's fine. Inshallah, they will still get the reward for sleeping on their right side the entire night, because that is how they intended to do it and that's how they went to sleep. So one should try to sleep on the right side. Of course, if there's a problem, if a person has an excuse not to, if their right side is injured, for example, then they could sleep on the left side, there's no problem. But under normal circumstances, the person should try to sleep on his or her right side, facing the Qibla. And this is the same way that a person is put into the grave, right? A person in the grave, they're turned slightly towards the right side and their face is towards the Qibla, towards the Kaaba. Know that sleep is like death and waking is like resurrection. So this is something that we should ponder over when we go to sleep, that this is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is actually something that is going to happen to a much greater extent. There will be a point in which we actually die and we will not wake up until the Day of Judgment. So the same way, in that same manner, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a little taste of that every single day. When we go to sleep, it is as if we are dying, then we wake up in the morning. It is as if we are being resurrected. So if a person remembers this every night that they're going to sleep, then this will be a means of trying to act in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they will remember that there will be a time in which they die and they will never wake up until the Day of Judgment. It may be that Allah Ta'ala will take your soul by night. So be ready to meet Him by sleeping in a state of purity, your will written and placed beneath your pillow. You know, this is just something that Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi mentioned, but that's not necessary. You know, as long as people know where your will is, or that you have a will, you know, your family members know, that that's sufficient. And in a state of repentance over sins, begging forgiveness, decisive about never disobeying Allah Almighty again. So these are some of the things that he mentioned that we should do. Understand that you might die during the night, right? You may pass away during the night. And there are many individuals who pass away during their night. They're completely healthy, but then they don't wake up, right? And their family members find them after passing away, after they are passed away. So you never know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take your death, especially since you never know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take your life. And especially since sleep is a sister of death, we should understand that we very well may die while we are sleeping. Allahu yatawaffa al-anfusa hina mawtiha wallati lam tamut fi manamiha. Allah Ta'ala says that He takes the souls after they die. And for those people who don't die, He takes them while they are sleeping. While they are sleeping, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes your soul and He gives it back to you. So you may pass away during your sleep. So you want to go to sleep in a way that you are sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with you. So try to go to sleep, number one, in a state of wudu. That's what He mentions, in a state of purity, meaning in a state of wudu. With your will written, right? The Prophet ﷺ highly emphasized the importance of writing a will and making sure that the will is completed. So even if a person has a little bit of money, they may not have a lot of money, so they may not think that it's important to write a will. However, one should always make sure that their will is updated. And we should repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for whatever sins we have committed. And we should be firm in our resolve to not disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ever again. You must resolve to do good to all people if Allah should allow you to rise again. When you go to sleep, first of all, forgive everyone for what they have done. If anyone has done anything wrong to you, try to go to sleep in a state that you have forgiven everyone of the wrong that they have done to you. And asking Allah for His forgiveness and making a conviction, a firm resolve that if Allah gives you life again when you wake up, that you will spend that life to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember that you will be put in the grave this way, all alone, with nothing but your deeds, and you will be rewarded only for your endeavors, right? There's a huge similarity between sleep and death. And if a person goes to sleep every night pondering over this, that this is the way I'm going to die, in a way that, we are going to sleep, we never know. We don't know if we're going to wake up. This is very similar to the way that we are going to be put in the grave as well. When you go to sleep, yeah, there may be people sleeping next to you, but you're not sleeping. You're not going into the same dream as them, right? It's a completely different world now. You may pass away, they may pass away, you never know. So you should always be prepared for that. Do not go to great lengths to induce sleep by preparing your bed in the most comfortable manner, because sleep is an interruption of life. Unless being awake is a burden for you, in which case your being asleep is safer for your religion. Right? This is a very interesting reality that Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi is mentioning. That don't make your bed so comfortable that you're just going to sleep and you may not wake up except after many, many hours. So there should be a little bit of discomfort in your bed, meaning that not like you're sleeping on a hard wood, or you're sleeping on something that is extremely difficult for you to sleep on. That's not what is meant. But you don't want your bed to be so comfortable that you'll sleep through tahajjud, you'll sleep through fajr, your alarm is going off, but you're not even paying attention to it, and you're just very, very, very comfortable. As a matter of fact, the Prophet ﷺ, one day he was sleeping and he actually missed tahajjud, and he asked his wife, why is that? And he realized, she told him that she actually made the bed a little bit more comfortable that night. She folded it one more time, and the Prophet ﷺ actually undid that for the next day. So you want your bed to not be so comfortable that you're going to sleep through tahajjud, sleep through fajr. Understand that the night and day comprise 24 hours. So do not let the total amount of your sleep for the day and night exceed 8 hours. Right? This is an interesting point. That try not to sleep more than 8 hours. And that's like the maximum that Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi is mentioning. That you should not sleep, the maximum amount of sleep should not be 8 hours. You should try to sleep less than that if you're able to, but for sure do not exceed 8 hours. Why? He gives a very interesting point. That let's say you live for 60 years. If you're sleeping 8 hours a day, that means you slept, there's only 24 hours in the day, right? So if you're sleeping 8 hours a day, that's 1/3 of the day. So if you live for 60 years, you have literally spent 20 years of your life sleeping. 1/3 of your life, 20 years of your life sleeping. So that's a huge waste of time. Before sleeping, prepare your miswak and your water for wudu, and resolve to perform the tahajjud prayer and to be up before the morning prayer. Even if you don't wake up, at least make the intention to wake up for tahajjud. At least make the intention. If we make the intention every single night, even if we're not in the habit of waking up for tahajjud, but if we make that intention, inshallah, Allah Ta'ala will give us the ability to do so because we want to do so. So have the intention to wake up for tahajjud. Even if you only pray 2 rakats, wake up, pray tahajjud. Inshallah, that will add a tremendous amount of barakah in your day. But at the very least, make sure that you are waking up for Fajr prayer. 2 rak'ats in the depths of the night are among the treasures of piety. Right? So augment your treasures for the day of your poverty, for the treasures of this world will be of no use to you when you die. Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi alayhi, he was a great spiritual master, right? You could feel the spirituality when you read his works. So he's teaching us something, that praying 2 rakats during the nighttime is one of the greatest feelings that a person will ever feel, right? It is one of the treasures of piety. And only those people who actually pray tahajjud, they will recognize this. Perhaps during Ramadan, it's very easy for people to pray tahajjud during that time because we're waking up for suhoor anyways. So some of us may have felt that pleasure of praying tahajjud in the middle of the night. And we should try to be in that habit, right? If someone has felt that before, they truly know how amazing that feeling is. And by the middle of the night, I don't literally mean the middle of the night, but it is sunnah to pray tahajjud in the last 1/3 of the night, 2 or 3 hours before Fajr Salat time starts, anytime within that time, even if it's right before Fajr time starts, but within the last 1/3 of the portion of the night, that is a sunnah time to pray tahajjud. And even if it's just 2 rakats, we should make the intention to do so. Now, when a person goes to sleep, they should recite the dua for sleeping. And what is the dua for sleeping? Allahumma bismika amutu wa ahya. Or you may have also heard Bismika Allahumma amutu wa ahya. What this means is, in the name of Allah, we live and we die. In the name of Allah, we die and we live. Amutu wa ahya. Right? So we are going into the sleep, which is a sister of death, in the name of Allah. And inshallah, when we wake up, we are also waking up with the name of Allah. So this is the bare minimum that a person should recite before going to sleep. However, there are other things that a person should also recite before going to sleep. For example, Ayatul Kursi. And I spoke about this earlier, perhaps not part of this series, I'm not sure. But before Ramadan, I spoke about the importance of reciting Ayatul Kursi at night, because even shaitan, we learned this from the hadith, that shaitan taught the Sahabi about reciting Ayatul Kursi and how Ayatul Kursi will be a means of protection from him, right? So shaitan was teaching the Sahabi, right? And if you recall the hadith, shaitan was getting caught, and so shaitan told the Sahabi that I will teach you something, and then the Sahabi said, okay, fine. So the shaitan said, I will teach you something that if you recite this, the shaitan will not come close to you during your nighttime, you'll have protection from him. The Sahabi said, okay. And then shaitan said, recite Ayatul Kursi. In the morning, the Sahabi told the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet ﷺ said that he is a liar, but he told the truth. Right? That shaitan is a liar, normally speaking, but he has told the truth here. So the Prophet ﷺ confirmed that this is the reality. When you recite Ayatul Kursi, you will be given protection from shaitan during the nighttime. Also, try to recite Amanu Rasulu until the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. So the last 2 verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, from Amanu Rasulu bima unzila ilayhi, all the way until the end of the surah. Recite Surah Ikhlas and Surah Falaq and Surah Nas 3 times and blow over yourself. So recite Surah Ikhlas, Surah Falaq, Surah Nas. Repeat that 3 times and then blow over your entire body. And if one is able to also recite Suratul Mulk, one should do so as well. Let sleep overcome you while you are in remembrance of Allah and in a state of purity. When we're lying down on our beds before we're going to sleep, there may be so many things that we're thinking about on a normal basis, right? We may be thinking about our work, we may be thinking about what we're going to do tomorrow, we may be thinking about something that happened maybe even 10, 20 years ago, we may be reminiscing over our past. But what we should try to do is use this time to reflect over the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Think that you are about to sleep. Think, even if it's just some adhkar that you're doing, subhanallah, alhamdulillah, Allahu akbar, la ilaha illallah. Try to make your tongue moist with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala before you fall asleep. Because Imam Ghazali rahmatullahi mentioned, and this is where we'll end with today, that the spirit of one who does this will ascend to the throne, and he will be recorded as being in prayer until he awakes. So if you go to sleep in a way that you are remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then inshallah your entire sleep will be rewarded as if you were remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And last but not least, we should remember that sleep should be something that we do in order to gain energy to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala more. So when we go to sleep with this intention that, oh Allah, I'm going to sleep so that I can fulfill my obligations in the morning, I can do my work, I can help my family, I can do whatever I'm supposed to do, I can worship you, I can pray the salah. When we go to sleep with the correct intention, then our entire sleep will be a means of reward. With this, alhamdulillah, we have completed the Essentials of Character series. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this beneficial for all of us. I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the ability to bring these characters into our lives, these characteristics into our lives, so that we can be someone who walks, talks, looks like, and acts like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك